I'd had enough and I was just done.
I had enough and I was done.
I walked in and I told my boss, I quit.
I walked in, I quit.
I quit.
And why?
Why not? Why not
We could do this. We could do this better.
do things that scare you?
I felt alive all of a sudden, and it was amazing.
The Go Hunt Life Show, hosted by Todd Nevins.
I'm Todd Nevins, and I interview life hunters that reached a breaking point in their careers or life and pulled the ripcord on that safe, predictable path to embark on an unknown journey. They quit the norm, reinvented their lives, and never looked back. This episode is sponsored by one of my companies, Click Placement, a digital agency specializing in pay-per-click marketing. If you have an established company and need to fire up your search engine marketing game, Click Placement is on it. If you've recently hit the ignition switch on a new company, we will design an epic campaign around your new venture. If you want to drive traffic to generate sales or leads, build brand awareness, sell products, or generate mobile app downloads, Click Placement is the agency that can make it happen. We are specialists in PPC marketing through Google AdWords and Bing ads, and we are masters in paid advertising through Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Pinterest. Find us at clickplacement.com or on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And now, let's get back to Go Hunt Life.
A leopard can change its spots. You have to look after yourself first and foremost. You have to love yourself. You have to prove your self-esteem, your confidence. You have to look after those that you love and care for. You have to get pleasure in what you do, however menial it might appear. It's very important that you shouldn't chase all these material things. You have to get pleasure in everything in life, and you have to acquire knowledge. Get out of your comfort zone, and you can achieve pretty well anything. There are no limitations.
That was Andrew Townsend. He is 60 years old, and he can outrun you and me. But 6 years ago, he couldn't run a step. 6 years ago, he was 70 pounds overweight, eating and drinking too much, and he was bound to a desk job. It had gotten so bad that he was labeled an invalid because of his battle with arthritis. He had no one to blame but himself and how he had chosen to live his life up to that point, so he made a choice to make a change. This timeline is amazing. In 2011, he couldn't run a step. And in 2016, he ran across the Spanish Pyrenees mountains. Those are the mountains in the Tour de France that look impossible. He ran over those for 525 miles from the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean, and that's an elevation change of 100,000 feet. It's like climbing Mount Everest 4 times, and he did it in 27 days. So obviously a lot changed from 2011, and we get into all of it. When we recorded this conversation, he had just gotten back to his home in Reading, England, from a trip where he ran across Italy. He is a running beast and an inspiration for anyone thinking that it's too late in life to make a major life change. Here's my conversation with Andrew. Andrew Townsend, thank you for joining me today on Go Hunt Life.
Thank you very much, Todd. It's a great pleasure to be talking to you. Thank you for having me on.
Where are you at right now, and what is your view? What are you looking at?
Well, Todd, here it's 8 o'clock in the evening, so I'm sitting in my kitchen. I am looking at my dog, hoping that she's not going to join in the conversation. And I still got my running stuff on, but it's 8 o'clock in the evening here.
And how old are you? Are you married, and do you have kids?
I am 60 years old. I have a wife and a daughter and 3 grandchildren.
Wow. All right. And what is your profession?
I am a runner, writer, and an adventurer.
Runner, a writer, an adventurer. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to run through a couple of stats in your recent past and then jump back to before you were a runner, a writer, and an adventurer. So in
Great.
2014, you ran a marathon a month in 12 different European countries. That next year in 2015, you ran 8 marathons in 8 countries in 8 days, driving yourself between races, and that was a world's first. Then in 2016, you completed a self-supported traverse of the Spanish Pyrenees, running from the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea, 525 miles with a total elevation change of 1,000 feet. That's what, 5 Mount Everests, something like that?
It's 100,000 feet.
100,000
feet. Todd, come on, don't do me dead.
Sorry, 100,000 feet. And you did that in
Everests.
27 days.
Yeah.
But you have not always been this kind of a runner. In your you're going to help me with the dates here, please. In your early 50s, you found that you were bound to an office, 70 pounds overweight, consuming too much, and suffering from arthritis. What was going on back then?
Well, Todd, I think like a lot of people, this was a cumulative problem, really. As a youngster and at school, I was very sporty. I loved sport, probably to the detriment of doing any actual schoolwork. I spent my whole time playing rackets, tennis, squash. So I was very, very sporty, very, very fit. At 18, I went to live in London and all the flesh pots of London and all that had to offer. And basically, my motto was to work hard and play hard. And whilst you're in your early 20s, you can probably get away with this for a period. But I was working incredibly long hours even by then. I was probably unemployable because I didn't respond very well to authority. So by my 20s, I was running my own business. And you know from your own experience, and I'm sure your listeners will, that is actually quite challenging, particularly at such a young age when you haven't got much experience. Inevitably long hours, long lunches, probably not a very sensible diet, grabbing food when I can. Before I knew it, I was, piling on the weight, and certainly by my late 30s, I'd gone through various stages of dieting and fitness boosts, but nothing really stuck. And by my mid 40s, I'd actually got arthritis, which to me was a real blow. This, previously sporty person, okay, I'd burnt the candle at both ends. But it was a real blow to me because I was sort of labelled an invalid, and arthritis is a horrible condition. I was very lucky; I had a mild form of it, but it was debilitating, and occasionally I'd be on crutches or on a stick, and it was very, very painful. So
could you walk upstairs?
Yeah, I mean, when I had a bad attack, which would last for a week or 2 weeks. It was very, very difficult. I would take a long time getting from the car to the office, and it was desperately painful. But like I say, I was lucky. It wasn't rheumatoid arthritis. It was a relatively mild form that they controlled with drugs. And but it did affect my life, and it affected how I thought mentally. That's the important thing. Was I really did think, right, I'm an invalid.
You've used that twice. Like, what is the definition of an invalid? That seems pretty dire.
Yes, it's an exaggeration, but that's how I saw it. This is how I personally saw it, because I'd been to specialists, I'd had arthroscopies, and basically I was going to be on a lifetime of drugs to control the arthritis, reduce the inflammation, and that to me was a definition of being an invalid. I was on a prescription drugs. I was severely limited in what I could and couldn't do when I had these attacks, and I was not in a good place.
Okay, so that was your mid 40s, getting to your 50th birthday. Is that about right?
Yeah. So I arrived at 50, and which I suppose is a sort of a seminal point for a lot of us. And early 50s, I was looking at my life, and I was still working very long hours. But I had this arthritis tag, and I was grossly overweight. 70 pounds overweight at one point, so obese. And life was not good for me. And it was the horror that I brought all this upon myself, really, by not looking after myself properly. So of course I blame myself as well for this, and that doesn't help us either.
What kind of company did you own, and what was your business?
I was involved in marketing. This was below the line marketing. So this was database marketing, logistics, sales promotion, that kind of thing. It was a tiny little company at this point, and it was doing well. There were no pressures in terms of was the company doing well or badly, like a lot of us business owners have. The company was doing okay, but it was long hours, and like a lot of entrepreneurs, I wanted to do everything myself. No one could do it as well as me, I thought. So, you end up working too hard, and it was difficult.
Was there one defining moment or breaking point when you just said, enough?
Absolutely, Todd. I mean, I had, I think like a lot of us, we draw this line in the sand and we say, today is the day that I'm going to change my life. And we might give up smoking, we might reduce our drinking, we might go to the gym, but you tend to creep back. Something will happen. You'll lose your self-determination, and something will happen. And I'd gone through several of these. I'd had several draw the line in the sand moments. But one day I had a bad attack of arthritis. I've been suffering for more than a week, and I was going up the stairs to work. This was early. I used to start at sort of 7 in the morning, and I was carrying my bag. And one of the very old printers who I shared the building with, he came up to me. He was 15 years older than me, and he said, "Gosh, Andrew, you're having a bad day. Let me carry your bag up for you." And I got up to my desk and I sat down and I just wept. The tears plopped onto the desk, and I thought, what on earth have I done? And what am I going to do? Am I going to give up, or am I going to do something about it? And thank goodness I chose to do something about it.
You were blaming your lifestyle, yourself. It wasn't something like, oh, why did this disease pick me? It's as if your choices picked the disease. Is that fair?
I absolutely blamed myself. Well, I blamed everyone else, of course, as one does. But if I was honest with myself, I blamed myself because I hadn't looked after myself properly. Yeah, for all the right reasons. I've been working really hard to try and support my family, like we all do, and long hours, 60-hour weeks, often working at weekends. But I had let myself go, and so I do blame myself for that. And there are hundreds of different types of arthritis, and I'm certainly not casting aspersions on anyone who has this affliction. We all have a different story, but I do blame myself for my lifestyle for getting me into this way. Certainly, the obesity was 70 pounds is quite a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So that morning in your office, when was that? How long ago?
I would have been about 54, so about 6 years ago, I reckon, something like that.
Oh my, that's not long ago at all. What?
No.
All right. So that, oh my. All right. So that moment at your desk that morning,
yeah.
What transpired from that moment? You ran your first marathon in 2013, right?
To 2012, I think.
2012.
Yeah, about 5 years ago, yeah. So I'd have been 53, 54 when I had this, epiphany. And it took me about 18 months to get on the start line of the Barcelona Marathon, yeah.
That is rapidly fast. What did you do? What were the steps that took you from that desk to the starting line? How in the world did you do that in 18 months?
Well, the first step was to actually accept that I had a serious problem, and the second step was to decide whether I was going to do something about it. Because we all have choices in life, and I could have given up and said, "Okay, this is pointless. I'm just going to live with this and put up with the drugs and stop belly aching about it and just get on with it." But I thought, no, I'm going to do something about it, and I literally and figuratively threw away my stick, and I started walking, believe it or not. Every single morning when I got to work, instead of fiddling around with emails and doing that, I would walk, rain or shine, into the town, which was about 2.5 kilometers away, and I'd reward myself with a cup of tea or coffee, and then I'd walk back. And I did this every single day. I then tried to join a gym, and they wouldn't have me without a medical certificate, which was pretty kind of, it sort of brought it home what state I was in. But I got a medical certificate. I joined a gym, which I can't say I enjoyed. But I did have a fantastic trainer there called Gabriel, appropriately enough. And Gabriel took me under his wing. I can remember going onto the treadmill, and I had to hold on to the sides just to walk because I was so unsteady on it. And I felt, this enormous blob in his tracksuit and all these lycra cab people. But, he really took me under his wing. I had a fantastic day when the treadmill broke. The weight was coming off a lot by this time. The weight was piling up as I went every single day. I went to the gym every single day, not 5 days a week, not 6 days a week, seven days a week. I was down at that gym. Yeah, I could do it because obviously, you know, I had the times. I owned the business. I could do what I like, really. And you know, the weight was starting to come, but then the treadmill broke, and so I thought, oh God, I got to get my little run in, because I was jogging at this stage. So I went outside, and my life changed forever from that moment. I went outside and I started running, and before I knew it, I'd done my whatever I was trying to do, 5-6 kilometers, and I thought, I'm never going to go back to that gym again, and I didn't. And that was it. And I started running outside, and it was a whole new life, you know, a completely new life. And so from that, I'd already done a 10K, so I did the Reading half marathon. And you know, that was a bit of a struggle, but that was okay. And then I thought, yeah, I'm going to go and do a marathon. And people said, you're bonkers, you know, you just stick with your half. And but I did a marathon. I thought, well, I'm not going to do it in this country. I want to go somewhere nice. So I picked Barcelona, and that was the sort of spur to get to Barcelona.
If we failed to mention this, you live in Reading,
Reading, Berkshire, yeah, which is sort of, it's in between London and Oxford. I know a lot of your listeners will probably, obviously they know London, but Oxford is the other place they may well know. And Reading is halfway in between.
Got it.
And it's just like a city. Yeah.
Okay, so you go to Barcelona. You're on the starting line, and you're getting ready. What's the furthest you would run before that day? How many miles?
Well, yeah, I'm sure you're not going to believe this, because it does sound rather surreal, even sort of recanting it now. But just before the Barcelona Marathon, which was in March, in December, I slipped my disc, and I was told that I wouldn't be able to go. I wouldn't be able to run properly. So I rang round. I don't know how many physios before I finally got one who said, "Yeah, I'll get you to the start line. I'm not sure you'll finish it, but I'll get you there. How about that?" So I said, "Fine," and I religiously did all these exercises. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't know whether you've had a slip disc. It is excruciatingly painful, but I persevered. And my sort of abiding memory of Barcelona the night before is actually, I had to sit up in bed. I couldn't lie down because of my back. And I got to the start line, and I saw these people, you know, jogging up and down. I thought, oh my God, what have I done? But I had an absolute blast, and the back was forgotten, and it was a real hoot. And I was trying to break 5 hours, and, you know, almost like a film script, I did it in 4 hours, 57 minutes. So Ooh. Great. What a giggle.
I've run 2 marathons, and the first one I ever ran, the big moment for me was when I turned the corner and looked down probably a 3/4 of a mile long road to see the finish line. What was the moment that you remember most about that first one?
Well, other than the disc and the start, you're quite right. It was the finish, because I mean, Barcelona is a beautiful city. I don't know whether you've been there, but it's absolutely fabulous. And the finish is very spectacular. You go up this long colonnade. But of course, I was watching my watch, and I was, you know, desperate to get under the 5 hours, and my feet felt like lead. But I pressed on. And you know, somehow I found this extra energy, and going up the sort of colonnade to the finish line was just fantastic. You know, the noise ringing in your ears, and I got over the line, and I just burst into tears. It was very, very emotional. And I thought about all kinds of things. I thought about my mum and her determination, and all this kind of thing. And it was very, very emotional for me. I don't know about for you, but certainly for me. Very Definitely emotional, the finish, yeah. And I thought, yeah, you've done it, mate. Yes, you've done it, you know.
And that was just the beginning. That wasn't the finish. That was just the start for you as to what you did. Yeah. So now, what gets you from running one marathon to running the level? Let's just go to 2004 when you ran a marathon a month in 12 European countries. Yeah. Were you still running your marketing company, and are you still now running your marketing company?
No, I'm not now. I sort of packed that up a couple of years ago, and I just have a couple of really nice clients that sort of just about keep me in bread and water, Todd. So and the odd trip abroad, you know.
Okay, so what took you? Man, you are hooked, and that is a complete understatement. What took you to think, okay, well, I just want to run one of these a month in 12 different countries? What What goes on with that logic?
Well, I mean, I love travel. I love adventure. I love meeting, new people. I love seeing different cultures. I love running. So why not put the two together and make something of it? And of course, I wanted to write about it as well. I wanted to write about this journey, and this was all giving me ammunition to start the blog and that kind of thing. So there was a bit of purpose behind it, other than just having a good time. But I thought, let's do something. Let's do something that's that's memorable. And it was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I went to all around Europe. These were all self-supported, and I ran through the vineyards in Moët Chandon. I ran up Mont Ventoux. I ran around Bruges. I ran around Lake Como. I got driving in Milan in the rush hour. I had an absolute hoot doing it. It was just such fun. And I thought, this is living.
You weren't running in organized marathons. You were just, is that right? You were just...
Absolutely. No, I do organized races. Yeah, I do organized races, but I personally prefer what I call free running. And, just literally putting a rucksack on and just going. And sometimes I'm out for the whole day, running, taking photographs, talking to people. I call it free running. I'm sure there's probably a term for it. But on the trails, just love it. Absolutely love it.
And so how did you plan out? In 2015, you ran 8 marathons in 8 countries in 8 days.
Yeah.
What were the countries, I guess? Let's start there.
Okay,
and how'd you do that?
I drove to Berlin. So Berlin was the first country. And I was going to run this with a very good friend of mine. And she managed 2.5 and then got injured. Okay. So I had to run the other ones on my own. But she was very, very supportive. So we managed that. But no, it started in Berlin. So ran the 26.2 in Berlin. Then drove to Prague. Mm-hmm. Then Bratislava, Budapest, Zagreb. One I can't pronounce. I think Lujima, and then Venice. I don't really try to run a marathon in Venice. It's quite difficult.
I'm sure it is.
But no, it was huge fun. It was huge. I mean, the only reason it was a world first is because you have to be incredibly lucky for everything to work in terms of the logistics. It was completely unplanned. I didn't know, I hadn't sort of worked it out too carefully at all. But I was very lucky with the logistics. Just the roads were clear. There were no problems at any of the passport controls. Just very lucky. The weather was good, because I ran it in November when the weather's not always too clever. So lucky, really.
And you're running, certainly, are you running every day throughout that year and still up to this day? Are you out there every single day?
Yeah, I run more or less every day, or if I'm not running, I'm walking, but pretty well every day. Yeah, I'm out there. Very mileages. Some days I might just run 3 or 4 miles. Other days I'll go out for 20, 30 miles. It just depends.
All right, and then I don't know if this is even the big one, but in 2016, the Spanish Pyrenees, 100,000 feet, 525 miles in 27 days. Is that the toughest thing that you've done so far?
Yeah, it was very, very difficult. I mean, it was an epic journey. I knew it was going to be difficult, but I mean, it was really life-changing. I experienced every emotion possible: sadness, joy, loneliness, the whole thing, because it was very, very exposed. And, I was no spring chicken. I had my 60th birthday by the time I did that one. So, but it was absolutely fantastic. And it was life-changing. I came back a very different person, yeah.
You ran it by yourself. You said loneliness.
I ran it by myself, yeah.
What's the sadness? Where's the sadness come in?
Oh, the sadness comes in because you're so tired. It's a long way to climb that 100,000 feet, and you get very, very tired, and things get on top of you, and you think, oh God, why am I doing this? Everything hurts, but you're so lucky to be able to do it, and that sort of brings you back home. So you get a bit of everything. You get lonely as well because you don't see anyone for the whole day. Quite often, and it's very exposed. You're on these tiny little narrow paths. And one slip and you're going to have some problems. So there are all kinds of things that you go through, but it was a fantastic experience. But more importantly, it just shows that, you know, very ordinary people can do pretty well anything they like. And it's we who set the limitations and boundaries, and no one else. It's us, you know, who want to stay in our comfort zone. And, you know, I'm a very ordinary person who just happens to, you know, run a long way. So there's hope for everyone, Todd.
Logistically, how do you put a trip like that together? You're carrying everything that you need, and where are you, like, how do you eat and sleep, and where's your water come from?
Right. Okay. So, you mentioned planning. I actually don't really do very much planning. I read the map about where I was going at the airport on the way out there. I'd booked a couple of hotels sort of 25 miles apart for the first few days, and that was about as far as the planning went.
Crazy.
I had packed my rucksack the night before, and I thought, gosh, that's heavy. But, you know, so this is how I sort of approach it. And but it was all okay. Everything works out. It normally does if you don't worry too much. And but it was just fantastic. I love these sort of ad hoc adventures. You know, nothing too planned. Just go and do it.
Did you fight through any injuries?
Do you know, I was fantastically lucky. I went out there and I was very, very fit when I went out there. I had a really good run up to it. Lots of mileage, tons of walking, lots of hills. Really good diet because I'm more or less plant-based. I call myself vegan light, so that's basically plants and a bit of cheesecake. That's the light bit. So no, I mean, you know, I felt great out there. And I was really lucky, and I've got a funny gene that allows me just to recover very quickly. And I actually got better as the trip went on. You know, I found it easier.
I interviewed a guest recently, and her husband and 2 young kids cycled from Alaska all the way down to the southern tip of Argentina. It's 17,285 miles, gosh. And it took them 3 years. And we went through her journey, and when we got to how she explained finishing, it was extremely emotional and sad and happy and elated, and what do I do now? Did you have that when you finished?
No, do you know, funny enough, the Barcelona Marathon was the most emotional for me because it was my first one, and it was a struggle, that one, because it was, you know, a lot of people said you're not going to be able to do it. I'd had the slip disc. But no, the Pyrenees, I finished it, you know, with a big grin on my face, very, very happy. And I thought, yeah, okay, so that's done that. What's next, you know? Didn't sort of feel either way, I have to say, if I'm absolutely truthful about it. I just felt great. You know, I thought, yeah, I've done that. So it's another day, 2 days off, and then I'll go and do some more running.
And you started blogging, and then this trip has gotten you to writing a book, Moving Mountains, 500 Pyrenean Miles in 27 Days in My 60s. Yeah. Tell me about the evolution of the book, and when are you expecting to have that out and published?
Okay, so I mean, the book came about because I do love writing, and one of my things in the advertising and marketing was doing quite a lot of copywriting, which I didn't particularly like, but I do like writing. You know, I'm not James Joyce or Ernest Hemingway, but I tell an okay yarn, and you know, it's fairly coherent. So you know, I was already starting to make notes of my trips, and I was writing the blog, and I thought, yeah, I've got a story to tell here. You know, one of the purposes for running is to inspire people. And I think because I'm an ordinary person, you know, people can aspire to do what I do. It's not like I'm, you know, some amazing athlete like Kilian Jornet or, you know, Scott Jurek. I'm a very ordinary person, and people can, you know, aspire to what I do. And I thought, yeah, there's a story here, and I need to tell it, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And it's not just, you know, got up and ran 30 miles, went to sleep. It's more about the emotional side of it, all the things that you go through. You know, the sort of, you know, the trials and tribulations and the high points and how you feel. So I think it's going to be quite interesting. I hope so anyway. We'll see.
What do you find yourself thinking about the most when you're out there?
I'm often asked this question. The other question you always ask is, doesn't it hurt your knees? And the answer is no, if you run enough.
Right.
But no, what do I think about? I mean, when you're starting off these things, you tend to just be doing checks the whole time on your body. So how am I feeling? What's this like? Is everything working properly as it should do? But as you get into a rhythm, it's almost like meditation, depending where you're running. And you can think about anything. It really is like meditation. You can solve problems. You can work out the meaning of life. You can do anything, actually. The Pyrenees, you do have to concentrate because one slip and you really will have problems. So it was quite stressful in that way. But when I'm running, normally I think about all kinds of things. But solving problems mainly. Solvitur ambulando, which means solve it by walking.
There you go. Okay, so in a recent video on your YouTube channel, which again is Masai, I'm going to mess this up again. Is it Masai?
No, it's Masai running.
Masai
running, or some people, I think Americans quite often know it as Masai, but I say Masai, but I don't know. I definitely say Masai, but it might be Masai. But let's stick with Masai running.
Masai running, and it's Masai running. And what does Masai mean?
Well, Masai is they're an indigenous tribe in East Africa, where I was born. So from 0 to 7, I actually was brought up amongst the Masai. My father helped look after them, and they're a fantastic nomadic race. Great athletes. Sadly, none of it rubbed off on me, but they're very good looking. Your listeners may know them from the very tall people with ochre hair. They put ochre in their hair and on their face, and they jump out these amazing distances, and they're basically nomadic herdsmen. So that's the Masai connection. Yeah.
They sound like awesome athletes.
Yeah, they are.
In a recent video on your YouTube channel, you had mentioned just a normal day. Getting bitten by dogs, not eating enough, and running out of water. So let's piece that one apart. How many times have you been bitten by dogs while you've been running?
Well, obviously, Todd, I'm allowed a little bit of literary license here, but I have actually been bitten.
Have you?
Dogs. Yeah, I think any of the runners amongst your audience will know that you have to have a healthy respect for them. I love dogs. I'm looking at my one nose at the moment being well behaved, and on my Pyrenean trip, actually, there was a dog called Orla, which saved me really. Which I was going very much the wrong way in quite bad shape, and the dog looked after me and brought me back.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that I'm appalling at directions, which isn't too clever for a sort of cross-country runner. But there we are. I was trying to head forever. Let's get this right, forever east. And I got to this huge board at the start of the day. I thought, great, where I'm going is all marked. Today I'm going to be on this famous sort of Pyrenees path, and off I went. And I noticed this dog following me, which was an Alsatian. And I have a healthy respect for dogs, and every time I stopped, the dog stopped. And then it was gradually getting closer and closer. And this is absolutely true. The dog just attached itself to me. I thought, gosh, where does it come from? It must come from the village. Why is it with me? But anyway, I kept going, and I passed some people and said, this dog's following me. Would you be able to take it back to the village? I say, no, sometimes these dogs stay with you for days. They just go up and down the trails. So I shared, my meager flapjack with it, and we stopped at a stream. It had a bit of water, but it was absolutely stuck by me. And then I sat down underneath this post to have a rest, and when I tried to get up, the dog wouldn't let me. It was sitting on my feet and just wouldn't let me leave. And I thought, gosh, it's strange. And I just happened to look up at the post, and I saw that I was going 180 degrees in the wrong direction. And so I turned back, and the dog followed me all the way back to the village. So you can make of that what you like, but it's absolutely true. I write about it on the blog, the whole story.
Did it have a tag?
No, the owner was waiting for it at the bottom.
Oh my God!
So I christened the dog Orla, because I think that's where the village was. But what it was called, I don't know. But I've got pictures of it on the website.
All right,
beautiful. So yeah, but going back to my heroic biting, I have been bitten in the UK, and it tore my jacket, so I was very cross about that. But that was okay. I didn't tear the skin. And I'd like to say in the Pyrenees I was bitten by some vicious, wild mountain dog, which they were, incidentally. But it was actually a terrier in a farm attached itself to my shoe. So there is a bit of poetic license there. But, it did happen. I am careful with dogs. And they do tend to, make a beeline for me. The water, is a serious problem because you're lucky in the Pyrenees because there's the mountain streams that you can drink from. But it was so hot. It was, for a Brit, it was 30 degrees plus. So you're using, water like you wouldn't believe. Mm-hmm. And I did run out, but, I tended to be very lucky and just came along. And as for the food, that was a disaster, really. Whatever you do, don't let your listeners pay any attention to my nutrition advice. But basically, I would miss breakfast because I had to get going. So I would just have to set off, with anything I managed to forage from the restaurant the night before. So it might be an apple, a piece of pudding that I managed to nick, or a couple of bread rolls. And that would just sustain me because there were no shops. And, you might find a few bits and pieces lying around. But that was it until you got to... Got there in the evening, so it was whatever you could find, really. So the food was pretty desperate, but I got through and it was okay. I probably had a bit of reserve before I started, not much when I left.
Was there ever a time when you felt like your life was in danger, even on this trip or anywhere else?
Yeah, the Pyrenees certainly. I mean, I had once again, I write about this on the blog. I had a very close escape in a tunnel. When I took a wrong turning. I mean, basically, I was behind schedule. I was going to end up on the mountain in the dark. And I thought, right, the shortcut is to run along the road. And I passed this enormous sign in Spanish which said, no pedestrians. I thought, well, that doesn't apply to me. I'll be all right. And off I went, and it was a mountain road, getting narrower and narrower, huge drop on one side. And there were these tunnels. And I ran through the tunnels, okay. And then one of them... car was coming the other way and the car was behind me, and I thought, that's it, because they hadn't seen me, and I just pressed myself against the tunnel, and I got away with that one. But that was close, and I was scaling an ice wall in Andorra, and I had my running shorts on, my wonderful trainers, which are not, incidentally, don't have crampons, the trainers,
no.
And my skimpy T-shirt. And I thought, you know what, you shouldn't be here, mate. This is going to end in tears. But I somehow got away with that, just lucky, really. So, I've had a few close scrapes. And, of course, the paths were very narrow. But there's some pictures on the Instagram of that, so quite a giggle.
I will have all of that in the show notes. And to organize our phone call today, we had to work it around. You just got back from Italy, is that right?
Yeah. So last week I ran across Italy. Why not?
Why not? Yeah, that sounds like a great week.
Yeah. Now I'm going to convert this to kilometers because it sounds more impressive. That was just over 300 kilometers.
All right.
Which is, it's about 185 miles. There was meant to be no climbing, but it was actually 20,000 feet. And I did that in 7 days, which is not bad for an old bloke. So, it was good fun. Really good fun. I love Italy. Italians are lovely. I wish I was Italian, but there we are.
What are you set to accomplish this coming year, let's say in the next 12 months? And like, how do you think up these things? Like, how do you think up what you're going to do
I'm very
next?
imaginative. So next off, I've got a 100-mile race, I think, in April. So that's why I'm working hard towards that. That's from London to Oxford. So that'll be fun. Nice and flat because it's along the river. And then I'm doing Italy again. I have slight problems with the medical certificate, but I'm sure we'll be able to get around that. I'm going to run across Italy, but this is a time race. This is going to be 266 kilometers in 50 hours. So we'll see how far I get in that. I'm not awfully hopeful of finishing it, but you never know. Miracles do happen. So that's in June. And then I was going to run across Greece, but I'm rather taken with the south of France. I can see a little trip from La Rochelle to Genoa in maybe September, October, something like that. But who knows? That's sort of loose planning, yeah.
The 266 kilometers, if you can't get a medical certificate, who can? What's the holdup? What's the deal?
Well, to my horror, I thought, I'm going to enter this because it's going to be really good fun. And I put my name down and I was looking at the other entrants. They all seem to be sort of Moroccans and all about 28 and this kind of thing. But, I'm I'm here for the old guys. Why not? We can do anything if we put our
yes.
minds to it. Yeah, I've got the mental aspect, right?
Yeah, you've got the mental advantage for sure. Do you plan on running in the United States or Canada?
Do you know, I love America. I've only been there twice. I've been to New York and Los Angeles, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved the Americas. I had such a good time there. But I wasn't running in those days, but I'm definitely going to do it. I want to do it in 2018. I need to get maybe some sponsors or something, but I definitely want to do it. I've got my eye on the Pacific Highway, which is LA to San Francisco. I don't think you can, I'm not sure you can run on that, but I'm sure I'll manage it. If I can run in Italy, I'm sure I can manage that. So yeah, that. And I'd also like to go the whole way across, but we'll see.
There's that from LA to San Francisco is gorgeous, and there's a heck of a lot of cool things in between New York and Los Angeles. There definitely are.
Oh,
wow.
Right. Okay. I'm
good.
sold. I'm sold. Let's do that.
Done. Okay. So what advice would you give yourself if you could jump back and sit across the desk from yourself that morning when you're sitting there in tears and you had 1 minute to have a conversation with yourself? What advice would you give yourself?
The first thing I'd say, Todd, is that a leopard can change its spots. I tussled with this for ages, but a leopard can change its spots. You have to look after yourself first and foremost. You have to love yourself. You have to improve your self-esteem, your confidence. It's very, very important to look after yourself. You have to look after those that you love and care for. You have to get pleasure in what you do, however menial it might appear. It's very important that you shouldn't chase all these material things. You have to get pleasure in everything in life, and you have to acquire knowledge. And if you do this, you can expand and you get out of your comfort zone, and you can achieve pretty well anything. There are no limitations. That's what I would have told myself, because I was thinking of the opposite probably at the time.
You can find Andrew at andrewtownsend.com, also on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Masai Running, MASAI Running, and on Facebook at I am Andrew Townsend, and that is you. Andrew, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Todd. It's been a huge pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
Hey, Life Hunters, thank you for listening to this episode of Go Hunt Life. If you like the show and would like to support it, go to iTunes and do this. Subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and review it. It helps, and thank you. If you or someone that you know has quit their normal life to follow their dreams, I would love an introduction and maybe interview them on the show. You can find me at gohuntlife.com and also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest at Go Hunt Life. Until next time, stay weird, dare greatly, and ripcord out.